All right, looks like we got everyone in. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We're really excited to be hosting our second ever peer perspectives panel where you guys can hear from your peers and hear their experience and their advice. This panel today is focused on our transfer students. It is Transfer Student Celebration Week. So really excited to hear from some great current and former transfer students here in Pamplin. Um, my name is Hannah Landers. I am the Assistant Director of Career Services here in Pamplin. We have some, again, amazing panelists that are going to introduce themselves. Before we do that, one more plug to please check in as you are getting settled here in our panel. The QR code is right there on the shared screen. All right, well, let's get started. Abby, I'm going to start with you. If you just share a little bit about your background, that would be amazing.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Abby Bond. I serve as the Career Services Coordinator for Pamplin Career Services. A little bit about my transfer journey. It was a while ago. It was back in COVID to show you like how old I am. But I transferred from a local community college called New River Community College to Virginia Tech. They had a program where I could go to for free for 2 years at New River. So I did that. And then I transferred into Virginia Tech in the fall of 2020. And then I graduated in 2022.
Victoria.
Hi everyone, my name is Victoria. I am a junior and I was an internal transfer. I was previously in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences as a human nutrition, food, and exercise major. And then second semester of sophomore year, I transferred into Pamplin as a management consulting and analytics major, and I'm minoring in organizational leadership. Um, a few work experiences that I've had so far. So before I officially transferred, just to kind of catch up, I did an internship in insurance consulting at American Income Life Insurance, and then after that, I did a internship last summer, or the most recent summer, as a consultant. Solutions consulting and engineering intern at Worldwide Technology. And then this coming summer, I will be interning at Protiviti as a and compliance consultant. And then I also did an externship this summer with Baker Tilly, which was for their consulting Pathfinder program.
Awesome, thanks. And Nada.
Hi everyone. I'm Nada. I'm a senior studying BIT, concentrating in cybersecurity management and analytics. I transferred in last fall, so fall 2024, from Northern Virginia Community Colleges. It is a pretty big community college up in Nova, but yeah, I just transferred over here. Some work experience I had during my entire sophomore year at Nova. I did an internship at Nova where I interned for our student life department. And then in that summer between transferring here, I was a people operations intern at CW Capital, which is a finance slash tech company specializing in special services. Um, and then this past summer, I had the chance to work at a global tech firm called CAI as their HCM compliance and risk analyst intern, and they've allowed me to continue to this day as an intern, which is amazing. And then this past August, I got started at the Virginia Tech Global Education Office as a global safety and risk management student assistant. So yeah.
Fantastic. All right, thank you. And last but not least, Avichal, please
Yeah,
share a minute. Yes.
yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Avichal. I transferred from Mumbai actually, so a bit more international. I guess I'm the only international student here, but I transferred last fall, so just about a year ago, from Mumbai, where I was studying computer science engineering. I completed that, and here I was a BIT cyber major for roughly 1 year, and they have a tie-up with my university back home, so they transferred credits, and I somehow get both degrees, which even I find a bit hard to believe. Uh, but anyway, I interned in tech consulting back in Mumbai, and over here I interned as a tech product manager, and now I'm working full time in the same role.
All right. Well, thanks so much for all those great introductions. I am going to jump right in. Victoria, I'm going to start with you. What was the biggest adjustment that you faced when transferring, and how did you overcome that?
I would probably say the culture shift. I think previously in STEM, there wasn't a huge emphasis on internships and networking and joining organizations. So going to Pamplin, I had no idea like what the vibe was, what I was about to do. And I was super surprised by that. And I mean, I enjoyed it, so I thought it was just more of a positive challenge instead of difficult, but it was definitely a huge adjustment to just kind of dive into all of that when you had never experienced that before.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned that you have an upcoming position with Protivity. Where did you find that position?
Yeah, so I definitely went to Business Horizons and saw them there, but the lady who actually kind of mentored me into changing my major, she worked at Protivity previously, and I just happened to intern at the same place that she used to work, or I will be. And so I thought, she was super inspiring, and I thought that she believed in a good work culture. So I figured, it's probably a good company if she enjoyed working there in the past.
Awesome. All right, let's go to Nada. Same question. What was the biggest challenge you faced when transferring from Nova, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, so I feel like in a way I'm still adjusting a year later, coming to a completely new campus. When I was at Nova, I was living at home with my car, which I miss, but I was living in like very comfortably with my family and, coming over to tech, like I didn't know anyone. This was a completely new campus, new city the biggest adjustment, just, being comfortable on campus, finding my way around. But, slowly but surely I am finding, that sense of belonging and home here.
Awesome. All right, and Avichal, can you share a little bit about your challenges and how you
Of
overcame them?
course. So first of all, I'm an international, so it was a huge cultural change. Although knowing that I was transferring like about a year before I actually transferred kind of helped because I was preparing for this big change. So I guess like that's one of the best advice I could give is probably like be prepared, be informed, be curious.
Yeah.
And yeah, apart from that, it was pretty smooth. I think kudos to, by the way, Ale, hi. Kudos to Ale and her entire team who made it pretty smooth for us to transfer here. And yeah, I honestly, I did not find a lot of challenge as a transfer student. I think it's a great opportunity because you get to experience two different worlds, two different, cul for me, two different cultures, but like even for nationals, US nationals, it's two different universities, two different vibes, right? So, yeah. That's my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's kind of a theme there in finding relationships and community. So, Abby, with this question, I'm going to take a different spin on it for you. Can you talk a little bit about how you worked to find community and mentors when you came to Pamplin?
Um, of course, like there's an entire team at Pamplin working for transfer students. But apart from that, I think networking is one of the like people think that networking is only done with like professionals, but you can even do that with peers.
Mm.
It doesn't matter they're younger to you or older to you, you can still do that in class, outside of class, everywhere. Like so I think I just talked to people, was curious to know about, where they're from, what they're doing, what they're interested in, and that just helps you make connections. Sometimes it clicks, sometimes it doesn't click, but you just keep going, and yeah, you find connections, and sometimes they become your mentor, sometimes you become their mentor. Just yeah, it's a cycle.
I love that. Awesome. Abby, any thoughts to share on this question as well?
Yeah, it was definitely a different struggle, right? So it was in the height of COVID when I transferred in, so everything was virtual. So it was everything was virtual no matter what. But one thing I did was join clubs. I joined one transfer student club that was only for transfer students, so they kind of, I was with my peers who knew exactly what I was doing. I will say that I did not use on-campus resources as much as I should have, and see now that I could have had a so much better experience if I used those. But just getting involved in clubs and talking to your peers and your professors is a great way to start. And then also just like if there's any volunteering opportunities, like I did a lot of volunteering while I was on campus, and that helped me meet a lot of new people outside of Pamplin and around campus.
Okay, great. I loved what you said about using resources and maybe kind of realizing now that you should have utilized them more. I'm going to jump to Victoria. What resources have you felt, or offices on campus have you felt were most beneficial for you in general, but also specifically for finding out what you wanted to do with your career?
Um, I feel like I've used so many of them. Um, I would say the career advisor's office, they can help you through anything like resumes. I think that's the same office, right? Okay, just wanted to make sure I got the name right. They can help with resumes. They can talk you through, certain just even personal issues regarding, oh, should I take this offer over this offer? Um, they can help you with really anything. I think that's really helpful and they really want to help. I also think just really I've spoken to professors who care so much about their student success, and even though that's not like an office or a technical academic resource, they are in a way an academic resource where you can just reach out and get help wherever you need. And also, I would say just joining organizations and getting close to the leaders of those organizations. They love students who want to get involved and want to learn more. So those are probably my main ones.
Yeah, so many of the clubs on campus bring in employer opportunities, but also mentoring from other students. And so I definitely agree, Victoria. Nada, curious for you where the resources were most helpful in Pamplin.
Yeah, I would say I have a very similar answer to Victoria. Like when I first came here, I definitely leaned on career services for resume checks, talks about, different offers, how to make, certain decisions when it comes to choosing. Um, and something again, like Victoria said, like leaning on professors. That's something that I even did when talking to professors about certain opportunities. What have they, gotten into like when they were first starting out their careers and how did they go about it? Because, any advice is good advice, So, um, I think definitely I just also like career services a lot throughout my entire, academic career.
Well, we love to hear that, obviously, that you guys are using career services, but also professors. A lot of our professors are coming from industry. They have their own experience and expertise that's really tailored to your major. So I really
Mhm.
love that advice. Abby, you said that you regret not using certain resources. So other than the ones we've mentioned, are there others that you're like, oh, don't miss out on this because I wish I had used it when I was here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna plug us again. Career services, I had no idea this existed when I was a student, and then I came to work here after I graduated. And we're all here to help you guys to really come and use whether it's our office or career and professional development for all of the university. It's such a vital resource. Use it. Use events as well. Like I know that sounds dumb, but like go to stuff. I actually remember actively avoiding people set up in the atrium when I was a student because I didn't want to go and talk to them. And now as like someone who works here and helps put those on, I'm like, what was I doing? Like, what's the matter with going and expanding my network and just seeing what's out there and seeing those opportunities to just use those resources, meet with your professors during office hours, meet with academic advisors. They're all here to help you and they want you to succeed. So there's not a dumb question. I mean, there 100% are, but they're okay if you ask the dumb questions. So that's, ask them those questions where it doesn't really matter as much.
Great. Okay. So we've been talking about relationships and building those connections. Abby Chol, can you talk about like a specific example of a time where you built a connection with someone and it led you to an opportunity or to really valuable advice?
Um, in terms of opportunity, I don't think so that there's been even one example of that, but because I've only been here, I've only been at Tech for 2 semesters, which is a really short time. But I would say that I would reiterate the fact what I said earlier about networking doesn't only mean networking with professionals or professors, it also means networking with your peers. So, for example, there was this one TA in one of my classes, and I didn't know anything about him, but I once went to office hours just to see what it's like, and turns out he interned at uh, I think it was one of the big tech companies. I think Amazon or Netflix, something like that. And well, he had a couple of internships that were really good at like I think with one big tech company and the other one was a consulting company. So turns out he had enough knowledge that I could learn from. And if I didn't go to that office hours, if I didn't ask him about it, if I didn't network with him as if I would network with a professional, I wouldn't have known that. So that is, I think, one example that people could learn from.
That's a great example. Yeah. Nada, I'm going to ask you the same question. Can you give an example of a time where you've networked and you found some advice or an opportunity from that?
Yeah, so I would say I definitely love to network within my own like company or firm that I am working at. So, this past summer I got to meet our CHRO at my company, and she gave me some really amazing and valuable, advice, as a woman who's in male-dominated industry. She says that, she didn't get to her position because they needed to fill out like a diversity quota or they needed a woman on the board, but it's because she brought value to the company and she truly made her mark just as a worker, as a person. And I just thought that was really powerful and hopefully something that I'll carry with me throughout my entire career. Um, but I would say, especially when it comes connections that can take you to opportunities, I think networking is so incredibly beneficial. As someone who's worked in HR and have heard stories about how interns or certain workers have gotten to their positions, like you wouldn't even believe how a conversation can truly turn into something unbelievable for you. So network, network, network.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Victoria, I know you shared briefly your story about the Protiviti connection. Do you have another example that you'd like to share about networking and how that led to advice or opportunity?
Yeah, so at my last internship, I had originally interviewed for a position, and then I'm not exactly sure what happened, but they were like, "Oh wait, this position actually isn't available, and we were interviewing you for it for some reason." And I had been talking with the recruiter and talking with other connections there that I had made throughout the process. And they very gladly recommended me to a different position. And I was just automatically put through the interview process without having to reapply and things like that. And that is the position that I ended up getting for the internship. So definitely like just showing up, showing curiosity, and instead of it being super transactional, try to maybe find some common interests with either recruiters or just whatever leaders that you're pursuing a career path with. That's definitely helped me a lot.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, they were impressed by you and moved you along, so that's awesome to hear. All right, Abby, same question. An example of networking.
Yeah, if it wasn't for networking, I wouldn't have got my internship in college. I served as a technical intern for BAE Systems in Radford. And that internship was completely found through my network. I had someone reach out to me. It's like, hey, we're planning some events, and we want some marketing done. So could you come, this internship's opening up. How about you apply? And if it wasn't for that networking connection, I would have no idea about that opportunity. And it was a great opportunity. I got to learn a lot of new things. In that internship. Chose also learned that it wasn't what I wanted to do with my whole life, and that's totally okay. But if it wasn't for my network, I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity.
Yeah, and that's another great benefit of internships is to feel out whether you like it or not. So that's awesome. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about with you all is the accelerated timeline that comes with being a transfer student, right? You have less time for your career journey. I would love for each of you to share when you started looking and ultimately where you found your position, whether it was a platform or an event or something like that. So Victoria, I'm going to start with you.
Which position should I talk about the productivity one or
Whichever you'd like to share, yeah.
okay. I guess I'll talk about my first one because that was the one that I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I just applied. Just something told me I should. I hadn't really talked to anyone about it. Um, I think it was, once I came in and I was kind of browsing on LinkedIn at all my peers who are in Pamplin, I was like, oh, okay, so they're doing this and this and this and this. How can I catch up? So I, just started asking adults who, have been in management or consulting or just any business field. I started, asking them like, hey, how did you get to the point where you're at now? Where do I start? Before ever talking to career services or anything like that, the lady who I mentioned earlier who had worked at Protivity, I showed her my resume and I redid the entire thing. And she just said it's really important to try to get internships to get involved. And so I just went on LinkedIn and I looked at available jobs and I looked at so many of them. But I think that was like the smartest decision I made was to just, even though I didn't really know what I was doing, just put the first foot forward. And I was really surprised by the outcome. I thought, okay, I'm just like a random person, like putting in a job application. Like, how is this going to actually materialize into anything? But it did with, a lot of effort and a lot of revising my strategy and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think there's a tendency when you're getting settled in a new environment to kind of hit pause on things like this because you have to put yourself out there. Unfortunately, there's just not a ton of time in the job search. It's happening so quickly. And for those of you who are maybe just getting started, the vast majority of recruiting happens in the first 2 months of the fall semester, if not even earlier. So it's so important to take action, like Victoria just shared, start talking to people, put yourself out there and be comfortable getting feedback because it sounds like Victoria, you got some feedback on your resume and that made it even stronger as you went through those conversations. That's a perfect example. All right, Nada, would you like to share how you ultimately came to your position and especially on that accelerated timeline after transferring?
Yeah, so coming in as a junior transfer to, such a big school coming from like small campus, like everyone, very small, like career fairs, everything to coming to tech, it was definitely like a culture shock almost. Um, and coming in also as a junior, it's like, oh, you have to figure out your next summer internship because you need to have something at least prepared for senior year. And it was a lot of pressure, honestly, at first. But definitely I started preparing, I would say, the summer before I transferred, just, revamping my resume, looking at my peers' resume, seeing how it looks compared to mine, seeing how I can change it, practicing too for interviews and all that, because I knew that it would come fast. Um, and then, I didn't realize that only a few weeks into me moving into tech, I would be going to Business Horizons, and that was kind of crazy experience as well. So, um, just like I would say to anyone who is maybe coming in also as a junior transfer from a completely different institution, just, don't be too scared. And, you still have time, but it is a very, very quick process. So I would say summer before, look at everything that you have and see how you can be prepared as much as possible.
And did you ultimately end up meeting your first employer at Business Horizons or was that an online application?
No, that was an online application. So I applied for at CAI over Handshake. I was very new to Handshake. I didn't know it existed prior to coming to tech. So I was just mainly using like LinkedIn. So I just applied on Handshake, and usually they sometimes have like the recruiter right under like the job post that is directly hiring for the role. And that's exactly, what I did. I messaged her saying how I would be a really great candidate. It's you have to kind of put yourself out there and kind of be bold, but making that action will have its, rewards. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Avichal, can you talk about where you found your position on that accelerated timeline?
Yep. So I transferred as a senior, and that too from a different country. So I did not know that how companies here recruit. First off,
Mm.
that was a big there's a big difference between how companies recruit back there and here. Secondly, the timeline is kind of insane because they start recruiting for summer internships almost 10, 11 months before it actually starts. So I came here, I realized I was late already. Business Horizons was a week or two after I came here. I didn't have my resumes in order. I didn't have pretty much anything in order. But I think what happened at Business Horizons is that I made some connections. I didn't even know what networking was. I just went there and asked them about how their day was and how they define Blacksburg and stuff like that. But somehow, right now I'm working at Marriott International. So somehow I met these people, and I think there was just a connection there, and they remembered me through and through other events. I met them again and again. There was a code fest. I think about a week ago there was a code fest at Pamplin, organized by Marriott. So they do it every year. So last year I met them at Business Horizons, then at some other events, and then at Code Fest where I actually participated and made an impression. And yeah, um, so I think that's how I got noticed, and I got an internship for this summer, which ended in August, and then September I came back as a full-time employee. So I think, and honestly, I have never applied for a single full-time job in my life. Because I thought I was gonna intern and then I was gonna go back to school for a master's program. So I have only applied for internships in my entire life. I have never applied for a full-time job in my entire life, and yet I have one. Only because I managed to say hi at Business Horizons a year ago, and then I kept on like following up with them at different events, at code fests, at hackathons, just even like regular stalls in Pamplin's atrium. So I think that's how it happened.
That's amazing. I mean, truly the power of networking, right? And there's an important part of what Avichal is sharing that I just want to highlight here. You mentioned that I didn't know what to do when I was networking, so I just said, "Hi, how's your day?" And that's so important. I do think there's pressure on students to have this perfect elevator pitch. It's really just about getting to know them and them getting to know you. And obviously, you were likable and charming in those conversations, and so they wanted to keep getting to know you. The other part that I love that you shared, Abichal, is that you went back to find them at multiple events. And this is something our recruiters have shared with us time and time again, is that it matters how many events and how often you're checking in with them. So if someone applies, especially to a larger company, one of the first things they're going to do is check to see, did they come to our booth at Business Horizons? Did they attend CodeFest or another event that they are putting on? They want to see interest from the candidate side. So that's really awesome example that you just shared.
I think mainly because one of the HR people here at Marriott, I remember her name. It's Haley. She remembered my face from Business Horizons, and then the atrium events after that, and then Code Fest. So I think she could put a name, sorry, a face to the name, right? So whenever she saw my name on any list or at the Code Fest participation list or something, she knew it was me. And I think that's what people don't do. Like they don't follow up to make sure that people know who you are. Like the recruiter knows who you are.
100%. And to that point, too, it's another really good reason to be getting on LinkedIn and connecting with these people after you meet them because it's got your face right there. So they'll remember
Mhm.
your name and your face together. And it really helps kind of close the circle after you've put in that effort at an event. That's great. All right, Abby, I don't think we came to you yet. So if you could share a little bit about how you found your position.
Yeah, I will say I was not as prepared as all of my peer panelists on here. I waited till my senior year to start looking for stuff, and then it got really overwhelming very quickly. I was approaching graduation with nothing basically, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my future, so it can get very stressful. Um, and when I did go to Business Horizons, I did not prepare beforehand. So I did not have the best conversations, but saying hi sometimes just building your network. So I love that, that was shared because it is very important. To find this position, I actually read our Career Connect newsletter that goes out every Sunday, and this was listed in it, and I applied. So I know it's a really long email, but trust me, look through it because there's a lot of open positions on there, and it might lead to your future career.
Such a full circle moment for Abby too. Just quick shout out because she found her position from Career Connect newsletter and now she puts that together and works really hard on it for you guys every week. So please take a moment to read that. And as Abby mentioned, there's a ton of info, but at the bottom are open positions from our employers. So at the very least, take a look at that. But there's also great events and advice from our career advisors. So yes, thank you for the shout out there. All right, Victoria, I'm going to come to you now. Can you talk a little bit about how, after you worked with your network to update your resume, how do you recommend that your peers list their transfer student experience on their resume?
So I personally did not re list it on the resume. I did explain it though in interviews or if there was like a prompt on an application. That was one of my go-to things if there was something like, tell me about a time where it was in a high stress moment and you had to navigate that, or if there was a big change in your life. That's a huge one that I always go to. Because it is one of the biggest changes I've ever experienced in my life. I was not just saying it to say it. Um, so I think on my resume, I'd more so personally, I stuck to my actual experiences. But if it was experience that wasn't related to business, I would try to tailor it towards a business tone. So, if I was working something health related in HNFE that I used to be in, how does that apply to the business world? In order to, make that connection because they're very different. So for other people, that's what I would personally recommend. But I'm sure there are many other ways.
Yeah, and I love that you said this because it is absolutely not required that you list your transfer student experience. Some students really want to share it, and I'm sure someone else on the call will share that perspective. But for you, if that's not something you want to bring into the conversation with current prospective employers, that's okay. And so we have that conversation a lot with transfer students. So I'm really glad you shared that. But also that you can still talk about it in your experience in shifting in interviews and your elevator pitch. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
I still talk about it today. I
Yes.
still use that answer because, I mean, it was a semester ago that I transferred, but it feels like a long time, but I definitely still use that.
And students often ask me, like, how can I stand out? Those types of things can really help. You have experience and challenges and different classes than some of your classmates coming through Pamplin the traditional path. And that's a conversation starter. It's something memorable. So don't be afraid to share it. I think that's so awesome. Nada, did you do anything differently with your resume or how you choose to share your transfer experience?
Yeah, so I did include Nova just right under Virginia Tech on my resume, even though I did not earn a associate's degree. Because of that, I've heard a lot of conflicting opinions, like, oh, maybe you should take it off, oh, maybe you should keep it on. But ultimately, like for me, I kept it on my resume because, I did an internship there. I've spent like about half of my entire college experience at Nova, and I've learned truly so much from my experience there. So that's something that I definitely want to be a part of, my journey and my story when I explain, my academic and career journey to employers. And just like Hannah said, it's such a great conversation starter. Like you are automatically a little bit different from everyone else, which is, kind of the craze. It's like, how can I be different from everyone else? How can I stand out? That is definitely a way to stand out, and to really just talk about your transfer experience because I feel like it definitely shows growth and transformation, especially so early in your life and in your career. So I really do recommend it, but obviously, if it relates to what you want to, if what you want to, ultimately want to go into. But yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. And Abichal, I know yours is yet still different because you not only were transferring, but you also were going straight into a master's program when you initially transferred. So can you talk a little bit about how you decided to share your path?
Yeah, since actually it was I transferred as a senior, but I was supposed to start my master's this fall, but I deferred it to next year because I got a job. But yeah, it was still pretty chaotic because as a senior coming from one country to another, uh, no friends, no support, in a college town that's like so far away from any other city is kind of tough. Um, but yeah, that also adds to your personal growth, right? Like you become more independent, you become more aware about yourself, about life, and as others on the panel said, if that's the kind of skill you want to show to your interviewer or recruiter or whoever you're talking to, like how adaptable you are, how great you can handle change, then this is a great conversation starter, and it's a great thing to have on your resume. I don't personally have it like I haven't written like I'm a transfer student, but I do have like two separate sections for my university back home and one here. So definitely something that catches somebody's eye, like, hey, how did you manage to do 2 degrees in 4 years, though? Yeah.
Yeah, and it does make it simpler because Abby, you're the same way as far as having degrees, right? So when you have an associate's or a degree from another institution like Abby, you can share it there. Nada, you were talking about how transferring from another organization without another degree can be a little confusing on how to write that,
Hmm.
but as Nada shared, it is still really good to include if that's something you want to talk about with recruiters. So if you have questions, maybe you can shoot Nada a message afterwards. I'm sure she'd be happy to share how she specifically includes that. But ultimately, you can list that you were pursuing certain coursework. You can just list the name of the institution. You can list your GPA if you want to. Great thing about resumes is there really are no rules. I know we make it seem like there are some rules, but it's really your resume. So however makes sense to share your transfer experience is completely fine. All right. We are coming up on our last couple of questions. So I just want to put one final plug out to our attendees here. If you have a question that you'd like me to ask, or if you want to ask in the chat, please let me know. And let's dive into our last question here. So this one is kind of an open question. I'd like to know either something you wish you had done differently or advice you would give to our current transfer students. All right, let's start with Abby Chal.
Oh, damn. Something that I did different. I'm so sorry. I'm still on the clock. I'm still working, so I didn't properly hear you. But something that I should have done differently, right?
Yes,
Um,
or advice you would give to other students.
yeah, I think I would say, since it's a change, you need to be more informed than other people because they're already there, right? Be informed, be curious, be like know what's happening, what's not happening. Yeah, I think yeah, being informed is what I would say is the best thing ever because yeah, you can plan ahead, you can choose what to do, what not to do, and having all that information with you beforehand is definitely a plus. So yeah.
No, it's so true. And it sounds simple, but you really do need to be curious and put yourself out there and seek out opportunities. The huge transition from high school to college is that there are so many resources, but they are things that you have to seek out.
Yeah.
We will
Yeah.
email you many, many times, but
Yeah.
they are things that you have to seek out.
Yeah, and not just like in terms of academics or college,
Mhm.
but even like in general in your day-to-day life, you've got to be informed about what to do, what not to do, and stuff like that. So it goes beyond that.
Absolutely. And Abby, before we get to others on their, mistakes or advice, can you just do a little bit of what resources, information from career services, from Pamplin students should be thinking about if this is their first semester?
Yeah, definitely. Like I've mentioned multiple times, I did not take advantage of it. So my number one advice is start earlier. You can meet with career services before you even come to Pamplin, like before classes even start. So if you want to knock that out in the summer, our advisors can go through everything that you need to know. It's a lot of information, but at least you know ahead of time, right? So you can prepare, like our other mentors said. Um, so you can prepare beforehand, go to Business Horizons, even if you're like, I cannot handle this right now, go so you have your foot in the door. You know what you're
Hmm.
doing when you're really looking for an internship in a full-time position. You know how to talk to recruiters, you know how to sell yourself to try to get, we learn about different applications and how that works. So you know what you're doing and you're not just waiting till like your spring semester, your senior year when there's not as many opportunities to try to find a role, right? So you're just kind of like hurting yourself. And you can meet with us multiple times. Like you don't have to just meet with us once when you first get here. We're here to help you throughout everything. So attend as many things as you can, meet with your career advisor, make them your best friend if you want. We're fine with that. You can meet with us like 5, 6 times, however much you need. We're here to help you. We want to see you succeed. So like really use our office, attend our events, look at your newsletter, email that you get on Sundays. Like Hannah mentioned, it is long. I know it's long, but skim it, see what you can see, see if there's anything that looks interesting or relevant to you, and it's how you can make the most out of all the information you have.
Awesome. All right, Nada, do you want to share some advice or a mistake you feel like you've made in your journey?
You know what? I feel like, and when it comes to mistakes or anything, I feel like it's really important not to dwell on it, like every moment's a learning moment, every learning, you have opportunity is absolutely everywhere, even in your mistakes. So advice is just kind of really march forward, focus on your future, focus on yourself. Especially, coming in as someone who came from community college, like the environment is completely different, and it's okay to feel uncomfortable at first and feel like, okay, this is kind of a lot. Because I've definitely felt that way, but you will feel comfortable at some point and you will reach that. Just, make your way through campus. Also, one thing that I was really proud of myself, at least that first semester that I transferred, was me being bold in some sort of way, whether it was in like, messaging a professor, or messaging a, recruiter, or even also in your personal life too. I feel like that, like really putting yourself out there and making bold decisions, I feel like, or bold actions, I feel like was something that I was very grateful for because I feel like it only brought more opportunity to me and more learning moments. And so that is like one thing that I really encourage everyone to do is just really be more confident in yourself and in your journey and in your experience and also be bold in your actions.
I absolutely love that. I mean, you have to get comfortable talking to people and building relationships. And not everyone loves to do that. But as Nada
Yeah.
said, if you be bold and put yourself out there early, it gets easier. And
Yep.
I'll tell you, there are never going to be as many people rooting you on as when you're here at Virginia Tech. You have all your peers going through the same situation, your professors, career services. We all want you to succeed. So if you're someone who still struggles with networking and wants to practice, if you need to get some advice on who to reach out to, like where do I even start? You're saying be bold, but like what does that mean? Who do I talk to? We can help you with that. So I love that advice. Thank you, Nada. All right, and Victoria.
I think a couple things. So before I transferred, when I came in as a freshman, I was terrified of college. For some reason, I thought it was just going to be so difficult to adjust, and it was this big, scary place. And I did not join a singular organization freshman year. I did not apply for any opportunity or use any resource for anything. So very different from what I'm doing now. And I would say that if it's anyone's first year here, college is not as scary as it might seem. There is an overwhelming amount of resources, but that is a good thing.
Hmm.
Um, and over time, as long as you're obviously doing what you enjoy, you really start to love it and you start to embrace change and embrace the variety of options that you have here. And also, I would say another mistake, which obviously I don't think I would go back and change it just because it's a part of the process, like Nada was saying. But I think I underestimated what hard work can do in terms of like applying to a job that you really do want. I think I kind of told myself, oh, well, there are so many competitive applicants. There's no way that I can measure up to this extent that I can, work for this company. And that's just completely untrue. I think, it's a learning process and practice makes perfect. So, you know, obviously consistently revising your resume, consistently revising your interview question answers and stuff like that will get you the job you want. So There were opportunities that I missed out on or that I was offered but I couldn't take because I had just already gone with something that I thought, oh, this is all I can probably do, and that wasn't true. So that's my advice as well, is to just believe in yourself.
Yeah, there's so much imposter syndrome going around, and you guys as Pamplin students are being prepped to do some seriously awesome things. So have some confidence. And one of you mentioned earlier that we can talk through offers. So if you're like, is this right for me? And, is this what I should be accepting? Talk to us about it because we can give you the honest feedback and let you know what else is out there or if this is a great offer in front of you. So that's awesome advice. All right, well, we are coming to a close here. Thank you so much to all of our panelists for spending time with us this afternoon. Really, really appreciate your advice. I will send a follow-up email to everyone who logged in today, just with our panelist info, if they're open to that, if you want to ask some questions one-on-one, do an informational interview, everything like that. But we really appreciate it and hope you all have a great evening.